possibly the greatest foreign policy debacle in the history of the country, certainly in my lifetime. And unfortunately, this did not need to happen. The incompetence of the Biden administration in handling this crisis, it's nearly impossible to really quantify that, just how large of a foreign policy failure this has been. Complete lack of planning, and it's showing really in real time how incredibly important it is to have competent leaders in Washington, D.C., all through the executive branch. The Secretary of State has failed abjectly, the Secretary of Defense has failed abjectly, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff failed unbelievably, and the National Security Advisor. They've all underperformed to the level where they need to resign right now. We're going to work through this crisis, and my concern in particular is how this is affecting our veterans community here in the United States and those guys and gals that served over there. So I asked Jason to come by. He is absolutely unbelievably incredible, patriotic American who served his nation and has the right to come up and speak to every human being in the Biden administration all the way down, and make sure that these types of things don't happen again in the future. So Jason, you want to say hi to everybody?
Thanks, Derrick, and thank you all for coming today. This has been some of the hardest days in my life. 4 days ago, when I saw what was going on, I reached out to one of my men who served with me in Afghanistan. I knew, based on our mission, that there was a videotape of me being injured, of my men coming up to me, putting their lives on the line, their brother in arms. And for 9 years, I buried seeing it. I knew it existed, and I didn't want to watch it. And when I opened that the other day, and I sat there with my wife, we watched that boy who was a graduate of ROTC at an institution in this community, a boy on the ground. When I looked at myself in that video, I saw a kid. I saw a young man whose life had changed instantly, who, because he believed so much in what this country could be, he was content with dying. I told my men to aid the others who were screaming around me, because I love them so much, and I love this community so much, and I love this place so much, that to see what's happening on the television right now rocks me to the core. It rocks veterans across this nation to the core. We as a country failed to give them a proper mission. This cuts across political aisles. Because when I laid there and I looked at myself, I forgot what that felt like. As the politics of the last few years has eroded our confidence in our own institutions, I allowed it to even erode in myself. I forgot about it. But there is a way to right this wrong. There is a way. When I asked the other day whether losing my legs was worth it or not, I can give you an answer. There are people that will be coming into this community down the road from here. They fought for their country. They did it believing in us, on our word, on our integrity as a nation. And that, to me, goes far beyond politics. We need to embrace them. The ones that come here, that have fought for their country, that love their country, and were betrayed by the actions I'm seeing on TV today. You owe it to them, and you owe it to us. All of us who had bled over there, who had seen their brothers and sisters in arms die. We all owe it to them and us. And I implore you all, as you go out into your communities, as they come here, we don't isolate them. We don't treat them like second-class citizens. We treat them like the Americans I went over and fought in Afghanistan to die for. It's about time this country grew up a little bit. This place is amazing. It's worth fighting for. And my veteran brothers and sisters, Derrick, we know that. Prove it to us. This place is amazing. It's worth fighting for. It's worth dying for. And I ask you all, as these events unfold over the next months, to keep what I have said in mind. And with that, I'll take any questions you have.
So, Jason, I want to make something abundantly clear before we get into questions right now. This did not need to happen this way at all. This lies solely on the Biden administration's incompetence. So we have people falling from aircraft that are trying to flee the country. That did not need to happen. We have 15,000 American citizens unaccounted for in Afghanistan. And to put that into perspective for you, that's 288 times the amount of hostages we had in Iran. There was 52 American hostages in Iran. That stopped the world. Now we have 15,000 American citizens that are unaccounted for behind enemy lines in Afghanistan solely due to the incompetence of the Biden administration and its national security structure. Everything Jason's saying about the people that had helped and served us, they saved his life in Afghanistan. They saved my life in Afghanistan. They've saved my brothers and sisters' lives in Afghanistan. Absolutely. As a nation, our word must be our bond. And we promised them that if they helped us, we would help them. And we have to stick to that. But I have no confidence in the Biden's administration capability of doing this. They have proven, and you've seen the video yourself, there's no way to hide it. Joe Biden said months ago this would never happen. He said there will never be a helicopter extracting people from the embassy. He said this would be a complete, it would be a well-executed operation. He said the other day in an interview with George Stephanopoulos that this went perfectly. That just begs the question, a couple of them. Number one, do we have a competent president? He is the chair. He is the senior military officer, essentially, because he's the commander-in-chief for the United States military. And I'm telling you, in order to do what Jason's saying we have to do, and he's 100% correct, we have to have competency in leadership in the Biden administration, and we don't have that now. And I'm very concerned personally.
Any questions?
Jason, my father's a veteran, I'm a veteran. Can you speak to the civilian population, the massive population, on what they should be looking for, what they might not be understanding, as this has been a 20-year plus situation for everyone?
I think that there is a disconnect right now between leaders in Washington and us back home. And that's why I've endorsed Derrick. I mean, look, there may be some things that, you know, maybe, I don't know, I mean, we seem to agree on a lot of things, but maybe there's some things we disagree on policy-wise. But I would tell you this, you know, I have found politics in this country so much to be rotting that how can you expect to agree with someone 100% of the time? How can you expect to always agree? Heck, I mean, I don't agree with my wife all the time, and I live with her. All right? So if we expect that of our elected leaders, that to me is a form of cognitive dissonance. I think some things are above it. And so for me, when I say that because the reason I'm standing with him here is that it's the same reason I ran. We have seen the tip of the spear. We've seen bad decisions from leaders lead to deaths that could simply be avoided.
We've got to understand that these issues are real to us. You know what I mean? We've got an incredible young American here without his legs. I held my friend's hand as he died in a tent in Bagram with a satellite phone next to his ear, listening to his wife crying out to God because she knew she would never see her husband alive again. So this means something to us. So I don't want our veterans, getting caught up in the politics of this. I am going to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to fix this because I know what it means. I know what incompetent leadership like the Biden administration means. I know what poor decision-making means. And it's not some Twitter fight that everybody seems to think is changing the world. It's not. It means the life and death of American men and women and our allies. And it's got to stop. It simply has to stop, but that means it's time to get nearly the entire national security structure of the Biden administration, send them home now. They are no longer value added. I don't think they were value added to begin with. Get them out of office now. Leave. And President Biden, take charge if that's possible. Because the way that guy has set up this problem set, he's been wrong every single time. Month after month after month after month. Who here can honestly say that panicked retreat, the exfiltration from the airfield in Kabul was a flawlessly executed operation? The President of the United States just said that. That's disassociated from reality. So changes have to happen right now. We need to get the American citizens out of the country. We need to get the people that helped us save our lives out of the country now. I get messages from around the world. One of my friends who is a senior officer in an allied country whose folks fought in Afghanistan are so angry right now at the Biden administration. The America back for Biden stuff, you know what that says? Mission accomplished. So all you people out there hammered George Bush for that mission accomplished sign, which he didn't even put up, you better start hammering the Biden administration's incompetency with his America is back statement. Where did we go back to? We're essentially, listen, the United States of America is remarkably less secure now than it was 4 days ago because of the Biden administration's incompetency. I'm hammering on this because we cannot forget this moment. The left is going to try to reimagine what happened in Afghanistan. We're not going to let them hold their feet to the fire because literally the fate of our nation is dependent on it. Right? I don't know how else to see that.
How should the withdrawal have happened?
Orderly. It should have. So when you start drawing down troops, the last thing you should do is give away the largest hub that you could possibly secure with the greatest capacity for air movement. That's Bagram Airfield. I've been there, I don't know how many times.
That's where I went after I was in.
Right, and that's where my friend died in a tent. So that cache there, that's a combat hospital, 2 airfields, ordnance storage, housing, food, water, everything, Bagram. Do you know why they decided to keep Kabul, the embassy, and the airfield in Kabul as opposed to Bagram? Do you want to know why? Optics. This is a State Department-led initiative, and they didn't want the optics of leaving from Kabul and conducting these operations out of Bagram. They made a political decision that's going to cost tens of thousands of people's lives, and hopefully not that many American lives, but it's going to. This solely resides on the Biden administration. And this is not a political thing I'm saying why they should resign. It's a real thing. So the State Department of the United States made a decision, political decision, in conjunction with the rest of the Biden administration to collapse from Bagram Airfield down to Kabul because they didn't want it to look bad. That's inexcusable. It's unconscionable. It's the definition of incompetence.
We have time for about one more.
If you were to step back in the park, you'd see a statue and memorial for the Hmong warriors who fought
Right.
side by side with us. Now it's modern day Afghanis are coming to right here in Fort McCoy, our community.
Yep.
What would you say to the community and the mission that we owe these people that are coming over?
I'd say first and foremost, the people that are leaving from Afghanistan need to be screened properly. They have to be screened properly. They've saved my life. They've saved Jason's life. Countless men and women that we served with. We owe them that debt. But we also have to do this responsibly. I have no confidence in the Biden administration's capability of properly screening everyone that is coming from Afghanistan before they arrive in the United States. I just don't.
And I'll add this though. I think that what you're talking about in the long-term fact. I mean, look, that man's not going to be president of the United States forever, no matter what. And at some point, we as a community here are going to have people who have served in this capacity, fighting alongside of us, and those that have come here that we know have done that. I see no issue to a memorial like you mentioned right there at all. In fact, I think it's needed because we often do forget the sacrifices that generations make. We clearly have done that. I think there's some parallels here with the war that happened in the late 60s and 70s.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.